Welcome to another episode of Simon Says, where facts come first. I'm your host, Jenny Simon. Grab your drink, be it Coke, juice, Kool-Aid for the kids, of course, your coffee, tea, a glass of wine, your popcorn, call your neighbors, call your friends, your auntie, your nene, your grandma, your grandpapa, call the neighbor, the family, everybody. Tell them Simon Says is on. Don't forget your pills, your blood pressure pill and your heart pills, your notepad and your pencil. Buckle up. We'll be right back.
Thank you for tuning in to Simon Says. To ensure that you never miss an episode, click subscribe and make sure to turn on the notifications by clicking on the notification bell icon. See you at the next episode.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Now, somewhere between 2021 and 22, Excellent Farms was born and died. 321 and 22, born and died. The largest poultry farm on island, employing in excess of 100 workers. Good for the economy. The project, the brainchild of member for St. George Southeast, Minister for Health, Phillip Telesford. At the inception, Telesford was able to attract financiers like businessman Derek Steele, Osbert Hood, a wealthy Grenadian businessman out of Manhattan, New York, and attorney at law, Deacon Mitchell. Unfortunately, or for whatever reason, all three financiers pulled out of the deal at the same time, and Telesford had no choice but to pay out the financiers their monies. That is the money they had invested, a total of $10 million between the three. Excellent Farms had to borrow the $10 million to pay off his financiers. After years of being unable to meet his commitment with the institution that loaned him the $10 million, of course, at the time, it's not just the $10 million. He had other commitments. He had staff to pay, he had bills to pay, electricity, everything to actually run the farm. The pressure was on him. He couldn't afford to do it, and he had to shut the doors. Then, in an article dated April the 18th, 2024, just over a year ago, Excellent Farms announced the reopening of its doors of the farm. They were able to access a loan from a local bank here on island. The borrowed amount, as alleged, well, it was said 22 million EC dollars to pay off the monies borrowed from the institution that loaned him the 10 million and to restart the farm, a new beginning. According to Mr. Telesford, a new general manager was appointed, a Mr. Kamel Ian Mohammed out of Trinidad and Tobago. Mr. Mohammed, with 30 years experience, poultry management, with senior management experience in feed production, animal nutrition, livestock science, and production. Pretty impressive. According to Mr. Telesford, Mr. Mohammed is expertly positioned to lead the company to new heights, where providing quality products and service will be a top priority. Added to Mr. Mohammed to further support its growth, long-term viability and success, Excellent Farms Limited was happy to announce its engagement of Deloitte Trinidad as its advisory partner. Mr. Ricky Rampasad, managing partner and leader of consulting and financial advisory at Deloitte Trinidad, described the relationship as an opportunity to create new avenues that drive value for excellent farms, their employees, and their customers. But before long, the curse of NDC, along with the crooked, fraudulent, and corrupt ways of some of its cabinet members and friends and families, excellent farms, Mr. Phillip Telesford, excellent farms, started to run into problems again, financial problems. By December of 2024, Excellent Farms had problems paying staff. However, he was able to pay himself and his wife, who are not on the payroll, even if they were not working for the company, because of course the wife has a job in tourism and he is a minister for health. Remember, he hired a managing director, Mr. Mohammed, right? So he wasn't the managing director of the firm, but he and his wife was on payroll. And while staff was not receiving money, they were receiving very handsomely a salary monthly. Excellent Farms also had problems with best practices. The workers complained that they were fired. There were those who were fired for speaking out on what was happening up there at Excellent Farm. You might remember I did a piece on that in one of my episodes. So, things got done after, and they started to pick up again, right? But of course, when something is said on Simon Says, things get done, things happen, and like of course the St. Andrew Anglican School. Last week I brought it in the episode. I showed you the photos. That was Friday, less than 24 hours. On Saturday morning, there was an excavator on site. Well, as I understand it, they excavated for a couple of days and work has stopped for now. But there are a lot of unfinished projects throughout Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. It's like grand move. We're going to do this. We're going to announce that we're doing it. People are going to see it started, and then we'll stop. Because really and truly, we have no money to continue it. And most persons have not followed, especially if you're not living in the area. What's going on with the Simoon Cultural Center? They come in, or the drawings was not good enough. We're going to redo the drawings. And you have to hang your hat where your hand can reach. I'm sure most of you would have heard so from your parents and Aaron, maybe a little younger and older. You know about that, right? So if in the meantime you can do a small, compact little cultural center, that's what is needed to be done, right? Not make it lavish like the Polaris village, right? And you can't get it done. You don't have the money to do it. Start small. What's the idea? Start small. So back to Telesford and Excellent Farms. So they managed to pay the workers in December. That's some of the workers, that is. But there were many more bills, of course. Bills continue. It's not just to pay staff. And so by February 2025, I received information from workers informing me that they had not received their salary since after the December. the December issue, 2024 December. They said they were told by Mr. Telesford that he was working on a solution to get the monies to pay them, and that he needed $1 million in order to save the company, to have his company back in good standings, his exact words. So, in other words, Mr. Telesford was again looking for investors or financiers, but more more than likely, I would say fairy godfathers, because the more and more you get investors and you have to pay them and you have to pay your a dividend, you have to pay them, right? So, and all your other bills. What you need is fairy godfather, somebody to just give you a lump sum of money where you don't have to look back. And actually, that's what Mr. Telesford was really looking for. My investigation led me to a gentleman from Azerbaijan. That's a Russian, that's close to Russia. That Azerbaijan was a member of the Soviet Union, and then they all went independent, right down there by Russia. And the gentleman is from there, and he has solicited boldly, asking him for 2 million USD to put into his business. He said 2 million USD, and don't contact me for 2 years, right? Was Minister uh, Telesford bullying this individual, or trying to give me 2 million USD and don't contact me for 2 years, right? So in other words, I don't owe you nothing. I don't want to have to owe you anything until 2 years. According to the gentleman, not 1 cent. His words in his accent. Now, Minister Telesford is in trouble. He hired an investor banker slash broker to help him with sourcing investors. In January of 2025, he got through with an investor from Dubai. The gentleman invested a first 100,000 US dollars into Excellent Farm. And then again, in April of 2025, another 100 US dollars, 100,000, that is, US dollars. So he was getting investment whilst, remember, Excellent Farm's doors were shut, right? The new investor tried and tried to contact Mr. Telesford after the second disbursement of 100,000 US dollars into Excellent Farms account, with fail. He couldn't reach him. He couldn't reach him. However, up until now, the farm is still owned by Minister Phillip Telesford. In fact, as we speak, what is another investor arrived on our shores in the nick of time. And I'll tell you later why in the nick of time. To try and invest, and I have to say to try and invest into Excellent Farm, because the gentleman is yet to meet Mr. Telesford. Mr. Telesford left Ireland as the gentleman was coming in. Word is he went to solicit investors, although he has a broker behind the broker's back, but he has left Ireland. Now, the investor from Dubai that invested the $200 after 164 days, he got a call from Mr. Telesford saying to him that he's selling the business and that he hopes that the new buyers honors his investment. This is from the minister, our minister of government in the cabinet and in the parliament, the member for St. George Southeast, right? Now, our Minister of Health has let loose out there. Forget about the Ministry of Health. Forget about Project Polaris. It's about Excellent Farm right now, right? Minister of Health, Member of Parliament for St. George Southeast, and leader of government business in the lower house. Leader of government business in the lower house. Litigations, right, left, and center, from the contractor, from other local individuals who genuinely tried to help him up. The minister has not paid NIS contributions for his staff. Minister of Government. Minister of Government. But of course, he's a minister of government, so he wasn't penalized. The minister accessed the $10 million from the institution, that is the 10 million to pay out the financiers, Deacon Mitchell and Derek Steele and Mr. Osbert Hood. That 10 million, it's alleged, was accessed illegally. Of course, I don't know if Mr. Telesford knew it was accessed illegally. That would have to do with also the persons who he dealt with at that institution. And as I understand it, other institutions was involved. Now, of course, he's an NDC minister, just like Andy Williams, how he received the in excess of $3 million, the loan from the GDB illegally. So did Mr. Telesford. He received that $10 million illegally. And that has since caused problems for one of the individuals who was a part of the whole process, right? There was no vet on payroll at Excellent Farm, no vet attached to the farm, no one to look after the birds when they were sick, and no medication on hand when the birds were sick. In the meantime, the minister has let go of the birds in the street of Rose Hill, all 200 of them, birds roaming the village where Excellent Farms is situated. So as a result, one member about to get asked from the cabinet because he is about to be declared bankrupt. And another member was brought into the cabinet and the Parliament of Grenada, bankrupt, knowingly bankrupt, still is in the cabinet and the Parliament of Grenada. So Minister Phillip Telesford. You hearing about the, you remember last week I gave you all a hint about a reshuffle, and you know when them reshuffle take place, what has happened? Ron get asked, Black Red get asked. Minister Phillip Telesford, head is already on the block. It's just for the axe to come down. Because according to law, according to the Constitution, you can't be in the Parliament of Grenada and be bankrupt. Right? In the meanwhile, Minister Andy Williams went into the cabinet bankrupt and the Parliament of Grenada bankrupt. And that is why when he got in there, they were scrambling to lend him all these monies. But only some people were paid. Lots of service providers and so out there locally that are still not being paid. But he's just been given monies and monies and monies and millions and millions and millions and millions. Right? So we await and we are watching with very keen eyes to see what would happen to Minister Phillip Telesford, to see if Minister Telesford will get the axe and leave Andy Williams in the cabinet and the Parliament of Grenada. We await, folks. That is a sample of who we have in the Deacon Mitchell-led cabinet and in our parliament representing us. It's all over the place. It's all a sitting and begging and demanding to try and save the business, because once you can't do so and declared bankrupt, he has to leave the Parliament of Grenada and the cabinet, of course. What is the government of Grenada? Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell and his government, I guess, they're building a hatchery and is putting it out there. It's out on the market for PPP representation. By the way, where is the Eggman? The Eggman that was made manager of GIS. Word is he's on leave. Just word, I'm not sure. We probably need the person in charge of the GIS, if it's still Orlando Romain. And we must zero in on GIS. A lot has happened and is going on in GIS. I think I need to bring you the GIS story. But there's just so many things. Because from the inception of the NDC taking office in 2022, as we understood it, hundreds of thousands of dollars was spent on equipment for GIS. Yet for all, when GIS is carrying a press conference for the government, we can't hear what they're saying. And after every 2 words is a stall. And even the Prime Minister, for his DM the PM, which is supposedly a government program, because the Prime Minister, it is not a political leader, we're DMing the PM, the Prime Minister. He has not been using GIS, paying outsiders for DM the PM. And that's something we need to think about. We have the Government Information Service there, staffed. So why not? Where did over $200,000? I heard that was spent on equipment But yet, remember the press conference where they were passing mic from one person to the next? And then they brought in the Eggman, who came in like a bulldozer, harassed the workers, persons who were having anxiety attacks, put who in corner with the books, persons who are qualified to do what they brought in the Eggman to do. But the Eggman was getting jumpy and jittery on the outside because he gave them truckloads of eggs during the campaign. Every morning you could wake up to the Eggman doing a live for the NDC. And then after entering office, he didn't get anything from them. So he started to speak out and make posts on in social media, sarcastic posts. And so they gave him GIS. Poultry farmer, questionable poultry farmer. They gave him GIS. But that's how things go with the NDC. Folks, excellent farms to be continued. We await the cabinet reshuffle. We await the cabinet reshuffle. Interesting stuff ahead. Interesting stuff ahead. You see, the NDC members, supporters, the corrupt ones, they believe they have mastered the art of corruption, embezzlement, fraud by hiding monies and assets on the relatives and friends' names. That's the thing. Because people saying, well, where Andy doing with all this money? Where's the money? Well, where's the money? Still owing suppliers. He's still owing suppliers. And you just hearing about millions and millions and the movements of money through MIT. Now there's a Clark, as in the surname Clark ring that has to be broken. And I'm putting that out there to the Prime Minister. You may not know Prime Minister. So I'm telling you of the Clark ring. Clark as PS in MIT office. Clark in the South St. George Parliamentary Office and selling saltfish on the Grand Anse Hard Court. Clark in charge of the Build Back Better houses. And I'm hearing some through the Ministry of Infrastructure. So maybe you should know about that, Clark. Clark, unemployed, but owns car rental, just purchased 2 Toyota Passo. Clark, unemployed, and expansion of the home into apartment building. Clark putting apartments downstairs their house. Minister Williams, question to you, sir. Who does PT 642 and PT 644 belong to? Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell, please check out the Clark ring. We take a quick break and come back. When we come back, we'll continue where we left off from last week. Very interesting stuff ahead.
Thank you for tuning in to Simon Says. To ensure that you never miss an episode, click subscribe And make sure to turn on the notifications by clicking on the notification bell icon. See you at the next episode.
Welcome back. Welcome back. So I ended last week's episode speaking on corruption. Well, with NDC, what else, right? That is seemingly taking place with the so-called Build Back Better project that the Prime Minister has let go in the hands of Andy Williams at the Ministry of MIT. A solid case of putting cat to watch cheese. And in the hands of Tevin Andrew in the Ministry of Carriacou and Petite Martinique Affairs. Persons are very angry with the fact that mainland Grenada got twice as much monies for the Build Back Better project than Carriacou and Petite Martinique, when they were the ones who were severely affected by Hurricane Beryl. What is worse, the money wasn't spent or given to the people, especially in Grenada, who got affected by Beryl. I mean, a drop in the bucket compared to Carriacou and Petite Martinique. The monies were given to Andy Williams of MIT. Now, when we talk about monies given to Andy Williams, I mean, it's not joke money, you know. It's not joke money, right? And I mean, I ain't just talking from the top of my head now. We're going to look at the supplementary budget, supplementary estimates 2024, and the submission by the Ministry of Finance. And under vote 39, the Ministry of Mobilization, Implementation and Transformation. What all them projects that was being implemented, he was boasted about 85 or 95% implementation in the parliament. The Prime Minister rated him, and the table knock. The very first one was the project on the fort, and that was 95% ready, and that was in 2023, the 2023 budget. The implementation of from this ministry, right? Okay, so community mobilization and empowerment project number 0114502. $8 million given to Andy Williams in MIT, and that is for rehabilitation and construction of small roads within the parishes throughout Grenada. And they said this represents 20 small roads. And then some of that to facilitate the completion of 26 houses and the completion of 15 new houses in St. Patrick, right? 26 one way, those were houses to be renovated and completed, and then another way, 15 new houses in St. Patrick, 8 million. He then was given for Hurricane Beryl response, 1.5 million, $1.5 million to cover the cost of cleanup activities on mainland Grenada and the Carriacou and Petite Martinique by the Ministry of MIT due to Hurricane Beryl passage. No, the Ministry of Carriacou and Petite Martinique Affairs also received money for cleanup. So I'm not sure why he had to get 1.5 million, that's Andy, to help clean up Karakou, right? Just a means of washing. Then, under Hurricane Beryl response again, he was given $15 million. And this is in the supplementary budget. I think it was in September, right, of 2024. So $15 million for reconstruction of approximately 200 houses, right, on mainland Grenada in St. Mark and St. Patrick. $50,000 per house. And the 50,000, they said, includes labor and material and equipment cost if necessary, right? First of all, at $50,000 per house for 200, that is $10 million. So we have 5 million extra, right? And where are these 200 houses? We would like to know. Where are these $200 houses? Now, for that, under that supplementary estimate, the Ministry of Mobilization, Implementation and Transformation received $24.5 million. $24.5 million, folks. But that's not all. So in the 2025 budget now, right, the national budget for 2025, under the same board 29, Ministry of Mobilization, Implementation and Transformation, the actual provisional for 2024 was $26,800,000, when in fact the approved estimate was $9 million. So $9 million was estimated for the Ministry of MIT. Of course, he just got 24.5 million 2 months, 3 months before the budget, right? So he was given 9 million, and he actually spent $26,800,000. Now, a grand total for the 2025, right? He ended up spending, I should say, $36,026. 36 million. That is under the Ministry of MIT. The allocations or the estimates for 2025, according to the document from the Ministry of Finance here, the budget was 43,891,000 for 2025. Folks, we were told that Minister Andy already wiped out his 2025 estimates, his allocation for 2025, and has already overspent $12 million. Just spending. Just spending. Now, take a look at photos of a brand new house that Andy Williams and his MIT ministry gave to an aged gentleman. I mean, not because he's aged, right? Just take a look at the photos. Brand new, huh? What you're seeing there? Brand new. Space between the boards. You see outside clearly. Look at the kitchen. Pay attention to the kitchen. Yes. Look at the countertop. Look at just, I mean, where is it? How much could that house cost? How much? So we scheming back on material. We scheming back. And we giving anybody. Once you would give me back some in my pocket, whether you're a contractor or not, you get to build a house. Just so that I can say, well, you're not a contractor, I can give you 10,000 and keep 10 for myself. This is serious things, serious business, my friends, that is taking place with this Build Back Better project. Serious stuff. And the movement of monies through that MIT ministry. Plenty money with no transparency, no accountability, just money after money and more money. Money corruption, more fraud, more embezzlement. Which brings me to the question, what happened to the investigation by the Minister of Finance? Remember that on the To the Point program? And auditing of the monies, the Build Back Better monies. What happened to that investigation? The audit report. Here is Minister Cornwall.
Constituency, St. Patrick's East. How is things in the constituency, sir?
Well, a lot is happening in St. Patrick East, and in recent time I've done some interviews on how many houses that we have actually put out in the last year since burial. Yeah. And I must say that things have gone apace. A number of persons would have gotten a new house. In some cases, their house repairs and so on. There are one or two houses that were started and they are yet to be completed. Some of them have issues, I would tell you, because I've heard one or two cases yesterday when I was in the field that the contractor started the house and he disappeared.
Why is that happening, sir?
I don't really know, but I mean, I believe that the persons who issuing the contracts to those contractors need to basically make sure that they vet these people properly and so on. I've heard stories on the road, which I mean, I don't even want to talk about it here right now, where a guy got money and so on, he put it in an account and so on, and every now and again he goes and takes $200 from it and so on. And it doesn't appear on the person's side to be able to continue the project. So yes, we have one or two houses
so
that
we have a management problem there for that.
Yes, there might be that case this one. But I want to put out a warning out to the persons who have collected government monies and did not do what they should do with it and so on, or use it for other purposes and so on. We would have the audit department audit those things, and would have the necessary step taken to make sure that you can account or you account for the monies that you were given. I know there are problems where, for example, somebody might tell you, well, this is the land and so on, and when I say we, the ministry took it as though that's a gospel, and they went and started building that house, and then realized that there was somebody coming and challenge, you building on my land. Again, we have to be more structured, put things in place to make sure that we can verify ownership of property before we get into building those things. So yes, there might be some learning situation in the past that we have to take into consideration, where people build on people's land that was not authorized. And so we, going forward, have to make sure that all of these things are corrected. It may not be just a matter of mismanagement. It may be a matter of people not being upfront with the information they gave them.
No, Minister Cornwall, it's mismanagement. Why wasn't these things put in place so that this won't happen? And it's not one or two houses. There are endless throughout Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. Houses that start, big Voos, Grand Move, and not finished. And I mean, far from finished, not just to put in, to do interior, far from finished, right? But Minister Cornwall was not the only minister complaining about what's going on with the housing projects. Tantiglo also complained about the housing situation.
That came out clearly after the burial response.
Yeah.
We were looking for contractors to do small houses, and we were not getting contractors.
Yeah,
So then we
exactly.
hire people. They said they could build, and when you see what they build, it's a disaster, next disaster. You know, so we really need to get our people, especially our young men,
Yeah.
upgraded with
Trained,
skills.
yes.
Yeah, because some of them they've been around construction as a helper, but they have not acquired the skill to go on their own.
Right.
You know, and that is a challenge.
But we know why that happened, have been happening, and why it happened, right? Because the minister of MIT, Andy Williams, he told us that he scraped up guys from the court in the court in the Limes, and he had them do construction, and in 2 weeks he had full-blown contractors from the coming out of the midst of them. So when I take up a young man from the court in Granans in the Limes, and I say, build a house there for me, I'll give you $5,000. $5,000, a young man who knew nothing about construction, a lot of money. Indeed, I said, put down on paper, the house cost $15,000, right? Moving along, on behalf of the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique, we ask for transparency and accountability of the hundreds of millions spent or embezzled on or in the Build Back Better projects and the different housing projects. We need proper investigation and auditing into the Ministry of MIT and Andy Williams. It is clear, when a dog's sucking egg, it's sucking egg. But what good for the goose, good for the gander. So let's see you touch Phillip Telesford. Let's see you touch Phillip Telesford. Now let's talk about the prefab housing project of the government of Grenada. Because remember, we got to this point of discussing houses because Mr. George Mason, in his achievement list, in bigging up his party, as he said, his government, spoke about the major housing project and the major construction that's happening, right? So we're moving to the prefab housing project of the government of Grenada that was built in the dump in Dumfries in Carriacou. And those photos you see there are the photos when it was freshly built, right? The individual in charge of that project is Mr. Randy Dolan, the Prime Minister buddy, good friend of the family as well. If you see, look up, you see that photo there? Circled is Mr. Randy Dolan, right? There with the infamous Mr. Batiste, Mr. William Batiste, the lotto rapist, and Mr. Teddy St. Louis, the Chief of Staff, and the Prime Minister's American Express. Can't leave home without him. Now, Mr. Dolan was the supplier of the prefab houses to the government of Grenada. In other words, he was the middleman. It is alleged that some 600 prefab houses were brought in container, sold to the government of Grenada. 5 were bolted up. So we have 595 left somewhere on island in containers. Millions of dollars spent. Not one out of the 5 that's already done. And these houses are for sale, I'll have you know. Not one sold or occupied even, right? And the rest in container, because after you see the disaster, I guess the 5 was the pilot project, because I have never in my life on this island heard of so many pilot projects. And all we hear about is the pilot projects. We never hear the rollout of the final thing. We never hear we never get information on the pilot project. I am hearing today that the bathroom, the wash pilot project that was supposed to be free, I am now hearing that some persons have to pay $50 a month towards their toilet and bathroom, their wash project. The NMP had toilet and bathroom. This is the wash. But the toilet and bathroom project was done free of cost with the NNP. Free of cost. But I guess we have to pay for the name, the WASH program. I have a question for Mr. Dolan. Tell us, sir, is it true the material used for the roofing of those prefab houses is first cousins to asbestos? Hence the reason for the non-collection of rainwater from the roofs. Something that is a trademark for Carriacou and Petit Martinique, their system. Everybody have to have a system. Collecting water off the roof, right? Here is Mr. Randy Dolan proudly showing off the interior of his prefab houses.
All right, welcome to this happy home, 2-bedroom, 1-bath, 420 square foot unit. Come on in. So on entry, you would notice that we have a big, bright, open living concept. Here you have a wonderful space where you can seat 2 stools and still have storage right here. We have a hot plate induction stove top right here. However, you have the option of removing this and adding like a 32-inch range on top. Full stove with an oven as well if you want to get an appliance package. But in addition to that, a wonderful feature is the extractor fan up on top. So no matter what you're cooking, it takes the air right out. This home is wired for 220 volts, so it's sort of in standard with what we do have available right now in the local market. You have a great sink right here, nice big window, for again a lot of light and air. All of these windows will come with screens, and then your refrigerator goes right here on the side, plugs in right there. On this area, again you have the double doors, impact resistant doors, and these doors again are very well insulated, so it keeps the sound out. Once you close these doors, you do not hear anything much from the outside. Walking over to the bathroom, you will see the bathroom finishes are quite impressive. Here you have a shower that comes with a hard plastic door. Frosted window. There's also a ventilation vent on top. And then you also have the plugs that you can use to plug in whatever you need to use if you are in the bathroom. Entering the bedroom, you would notice that this is a pretty spacious bedroom. A queen bed would fit from end to end right here, allowing night tables on either end. And then you also have the plugs on each side, and you can plug into the nightstands. Another large window on either side, and you could process if you want. You could put a blind here, and again, these windows all open this way with the screens coming down. That makes it very attractive for keeping it open during the night and not allowing any insects to sort of fly in. The air conditioned unit comes standard in these units in this bedroom. Again, as much as it comes standard over on this side, the living area. When these air conditioned units on, they're enough to completely cool the unit down, and again, keeping that sort of insulated cool air inside. This wall right here separates the two rooms, and again, you have adequate closet space on both sides of the rooms. The other fantastic thing about these homes,
they're stylish, eh? They have a way with words. Welcome to a happy home. This happy home. Yeah? They're stylish, eh? I like that. Then they're nice. Folks, not one of these houses are occupied at the moment, or sold, should I say. They're occupied or no? We'll come to that. And today, this is what we have to show for the millions. I mean, first of all, you can see when you look at the interior, wrong country, wrong place. But you didn't know that the exterior, the outside of it, was the same thing. Wrong weather, right? Millions of dollars, money spent. Whose money was spent? Whose money was spent? Who collected the monies for these prefab houses? Who benefited from these prefab houses? Those prefab, the ones in the containers as well. Who benefited from them? Now we stuck, right? The government of Grenada stuck with these houses because it makes sense putting up more. After you see, folks, what they turn to, what's happening here, you would know that we bust on that idea again. We want to know whose money was spent and how much was spent. This is what we have to show. Lovely view, eh? Lovely view. The Dumfries garbage dump, the landfill, that's the view. Tall bushes, donkeys grazing, walls peeling, wrong temperature. Again, we ask for transparency and accountability on these prefab houses and the money spent and how much of those we have left in containers, and what are we going to do with them? What are we going to do with them? Where is the $20 million given to Tevin Andrew, Minister for Carriacou and Petite Martinique Affairs. How many Build Back Better houses we have to date in Carriacou? Remember, we were told they had 10 in Carriacou and 4 or 5 in Petite Martinique. So that's, let's say, 15 altogether. We need an update on how many now, because $20 million was given to Tevin Andrew in the Ministry of Carriacou and Petite Martinique. I was promised a ride on the boat. Just saying, I was promised a ride on the boat. Anytime I come to Carriacou and I want to go to Petite Martinique, I was offered a ride. It can take me with his boat. Now in 2022, right after the elections, speaking to media, this is what Minister Tevin Andrew had to say.
Many people come, good morning, how are you? All right. Many people come to us to seek assistance. And in a lot of cases, we dip in our pockets. I know for me in particular, from the moment I get my salary is over. And as I was telling members of my political branch last month, that last month in, I only had $2, two EC dollars and a few cents in my account. Because when people come to you, when constituents come to you and they ask for help, and in many cases, they need genuine assistance, whether Grenelec cut off their light, or they need food, or they need medication, and so on. You, as a leader, and as a human being, you care and you want to help and you assist, and that's what we do. So most of us, I know that we use our personal resources to help. And I'm not complaining, because it's something that I used to be doing from since I knew myself.
Okay. So that was before they got the big raise, right? And going home with the, how much, 20,000 plus? That was before then. So he said to us that he only had $2. Today, Minister Tevin Andrew, at a staff meeting with public workers of the Ministry of Carriacou and Petite Martinique Affairs, in a conversation with the workers, with no apologies, said to them, win, lose, or draw, next election, whatever happened in the next election, he is set for life. Imagine that. 3 years ago, $2 to being set for life, and have the nerve to say to the hardworking public workers, that's the people who really do the job, who runs the ministry. Yeah? Some of them been working probably 20 and 30 years, if not 40 in some cases. And ain't nowhere close to saying that. Nowhere close to saying that. Be careful, little mouth, what you say. My mother used to say show off is an expensive thing. Still on major houses construction, according to Mr. George Mason, and by extension the NDC government administration. Let's talk about the infamous Project 500, Grenadian style houses, now turned Project 17, prefab houses. Now in the 2023 estimates of revenue and expenditure, in other words, the 2023 budget presentation, Prime Minister Mitchell told us about Project 500.
Initiatives in this budget cycle include: 1. The Stony Gut Climate Resilient Housing Development Pilot Project, which aims to construct modern, high-quality, climate-resilient Grenadian-style homes in Stony Gut in the parish of St. John. Construction is expected to start in 2023, Mr. Speaker, and $2.5 million has been budgeted. Mr. Speaker,
$2.5 million budgeted for the Stony Gut pilot project that never started. Not a brick was laid in Stony Gut, St. John. Another pilot project. We already know nothing happened there and will never happen. And that this Grenadian style houses, some of them even said would have swimming pool, will never happen under this administration, because we quickly move from Grenadian style houses. And I might let you know, actually, in comparison to the gift from the Republic of China, because of course most of them are apartments. You know, they have to use the nice words. They say they're condominiums, okay? So in comparison to, you get a set of houses from the Chinese, that we're going to build individual 500, and Grenadians like the little individual. That's correct. 500 a year, right? Grenadian style homes. So as I said, that quickly moved to prefab houses. Metamorphosis took place. And Grenadian style brick homes turned into prefab houses. And at a town hall in St. Patrick, when speaking to the people, I think it was their first year anniversary, speaking to the people on their achievements, of course, Project 500 came back up, and Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell told his audience about the switch to prefab style houses because it's quicker and cheaper.
we recognize that housing is a big challenge in Grenada. There is a current housing repair program that the government is running to assist persons in housing repairs. But this program has its challenges and it has its limitations. But we are nonetheless going to continue because we recognize that in some instances people are in truly desperate circumstances and we need to cater to them. But the program is not sustainable. And in the long run, it isn't really improving the housing stock in a sustainable manner. The average person builds a home once in their lifetime, for the most part. Maybe twice if you have an extended, if you go past the 70. And we need to build homes that can sustain, endure, and resist things like the hurricanes, resist things like termites, etc., etc. So, I can't see the screen from here, so I'm not so sure if you have the right. So, we promised Project 500, and we intend to deliver Project 500. So what we are hoping to do with these contractors is to use technology, modern technology, that can allow us to do prefab houses. That is, houses that are actually built or manufactured as much as possible in factories, and then what you're doing is you are installing the homes. So we would build the foundations, but you are literally installing the homes, installing the plumbing, installing the electricity and the other amenities. What that should allow is for a much more rapid, I'm going to use the word installation of the homes, in a shorter space of time, where you can then do a lot of houses quickly and hopefully cheaply.
The program was not sustainable, because nothing they met from the previous administration was sustainable, was drawn properly, was built properly. Nothing was good. Nothing was good. The only good thing they got from the previous administration was the 500 million in the treasury. Nothing else was good. So you hear him. That program, the housing program that the government had before, was not sustainable. So we're going to build 500 homes for people. We have a problem with housing stock. Well, if Grenadians was waiting on that project 500 to survive, they're dead already. Because even after he claimed that they had to move swiftly, because Grenadians really need the homes, to prefab. Homes where you just have to bolt it up. You build foundation and you bolt it up. Up to today, not one prefab house in the new project. Another pilot project, yet another pilot project in Dunfermline in St. Andrew. Not one is ready. Not one is completed and ready. So they had to wait all their life for these project 500 homes. That wasn't sustainable, as he said. I mean, come on. Come on. Real mouth open would jump out. In the 2024 budget presentation, this is what Minister of Finance, Dennis Cornwall, had to say about Project 500.
Area of housing. Project 500, Mr. Speaker, this flagship housing program will support the construction of 500 Grenada-style houses through leveraging private partnership. The Cabinet has given Housing Authority of Grenada the mandate to drive this program. An allocation of 9 million is provided for the acceleration of this program in 2024.
You've heard him. No, this is what the chairman of the Housing Authority had to say on Project 500.
Project 500, it's a government initiative to alleviate some of the stresses on the housing industry, to improve the housing stock. As you could appreciate, there's many reasons why persons are unable to build. It could be one, the availability of land. Two, it could be just the cost of building. So combining the two, Project 500 seeks to be able to find land for persons by having large areas of land and developing a community. So what we're trying to do is to have small homes, bigger homes, so that you have a wide range of persons and affordable homes. So if your person was trying to do it on their own, they would not have been able to afford a type of home like that. The quality of homes are such that it would stand up to the hurricane code, the building codes that we have here in Grenada. So it's more resilient. We take into consideration also in Project 500 that climate is changing, and we will try to bring in at a lower level climate smart techniques and material to improve the quality of the home. So we're not just building a regular home, we would try to have it with solar and some other facilities, water storing the facilities and so on, that you would not normally find in a regular housing project of our kind. So that's the difference between what we have done in the past and now. So this in a nutshell is Project 500, but we have 4 elements to Project 500. The first element deals with, we call it category. So we say category A, where the government or housing authority has land already for that. And in this case, we're starting off with Dunfermline. That is housing authority's land. That is housing authority. It's been designated for homes for a lot of years now, and we already have a housing project up there. So we're just extending that area and using our land to put more homes. In that area, we have a test site that has started, and you would see it off the ground in terms of construction of the foundation during the month of October or towards the end of October. And should complete between December to January, depends on the speed. These are 17 homes. And from that, you would get on the other side of the road, Housing Authority also have a further 15 acres, which we would develop and put probably about 75 units, individual homes, including 4 or 5 green spaces.
No, you heard him again. The difference between the projects, the housing projects before and now. These are prefab houses. If you're looking at your screen now, you'd see where Project 17 is at the moment. But if you look properly, you'd see a pink house, lovely little pink house, and a blue house. Those houses are from the previous administration project, right? Concrete houses. And he is saying that the prefab houses would be better. Right? It's better. Everything now is better. Build back better, bigger, better, stronger. Everything is better. You saw a Build Back Better house I showed you at the beginning that they built for a senior citizen. You see, it's better, right? Better have a different meaning under this NDC administration. That's a different meaning. So this is where Project 17 is at the moment. Mr. Randy Dolan is again in charge. Well, it's prefab houses, they bad. He is in charge of Project 17. Even as political leader, before coming into office, Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell, as political leader, spoke of Project 500 and the amount of houses they were going to provide for Grenadians.
The National Democratic Congress has outlined the party's plans to address the country's housing issue if given the chance to govern Grenada following the June 23rd general elections. Political leader of the NDC, Deacon Mitchell, says under his leadership, housing materials will not be dropped off for people in need to be left without being used by the homeowner because the individual or family does not have the capacity to get the repairs done. He said instead people will be assisted with home repairs, especially the elderly and disabled.
Starting with the homes of our retirees, the homes of our senior citizens, and the homes of our disadvantaged persons, particularly persons who may be physically or mentally challenged. The next category of persons will then be particularly single mothers who are raising children on their own.
The NDC Mitchell said their priority will be increasing and improving the housing stock.
We are aiming to construct 2,500 homes. The homes will be made available for sale. The price ranges will vary depending on the size of the houses. The plans for the houses will be designed in such a way that they can be scaled up.
He said the NDC plan is to ensure that in the case of new houses constructed, there will be supporting facilities and amenities to create a proper village.
But ensuring that there are things like playgrounds for our children. Parks. Ensuring that things like grocery stores are located close by. Ensuring that even simple things like if you need a post office, that those things are located within the communities. Ensuring that if there is a preschool is required, that a preschool is located within the community. Ensuring that things like basketball courts, tennis courts, community centers are made part of the communities.
Now, if any of you know of any single mothers who are raising their children with their partners, please let me know. Just something to put out there. I would love to know of any single mothers who are raising their children with their partners, because I thought once you're a single mother, you're raising your children alone, right? So since then, you heard it was a village. We were getting a whole city, Project 500. with anything you think about. You heard him. Health centers, playgrounds, school, library, whatever would be, would have been. And it was 2,500 houses, 500 a year, right? Yeah, Project 500. So this was not a fluke. This was a plan. This was a pie in the sky initiative that was given to you all in town halls. You know, remember the Wednesday town halls? Yeah, yeah. So Mr. Mason then moved on to Project Polaris, as if it was project already on the way, right? Another village was going to be built, or is going to be built. Polaris Village. More pie in the sky. Though I don't think that Project Polaris Village will ever come to pass. It definitely can't hold in the sky, because you see the size. Well, if you haven't seen it, you would see it coming up shortly. The size of this thing, this whole village, and what on all the niceties that would be in that village. That one can't stay in the sky. That one can't stay. So, Mr. George Mason, where are the major housing construction taking place, sir? And where is Project Polaris? According to Mr. George Mason, steady improvement in health delivery and the Project Polaris Hospital. Right now, the General Hospital is operating as a place where people go to die. I cannot say a hospice, because a hospice is a place where persons go to die in comfort. It provides physical, emotional, social, and spiritual support for parents, partners, and their families. Every Monday morning, a different piece of equipment not working at the General Hospital. Well, the X-ray machine, hardly ever. Kidney machine, dialysis machine, should I say. Ventilators, you name it. No reagents in the lab. No medication on the wards. No gloves, no gauze, no suturing material. The thread to stitch up people. Selective surgery. I mean, we've been having selective surgery forever. When are we going to have, since this administration appeared, when are we just going to have, you need surgery, you get your surgery? Select persons who in pain are told their surgery is not an emergency. Ordinary poor people have to try and raise funds so that they can get their surgery done privately. And let me let you know, privately don't mean in a private hospital, privately at the General Hospital as well. So you can't get it under the system, but you can get it privately done at the General Hospital. Soak that in. You soak that in. You hear of 2-year-old dying from operation. I mean, I don't even want to speak about that, because we went from 0 to 100 in no time. The Princess Hospital is a huge clinic. There isn't a family on this island that haven't had someone they know, a family member, a relative, a friend, an acquaintance, a colleague, a co-worker who haven't had a bad experience at our 2 or 3 main hospitals on island. You all know what I'm talking about. And the Minister of Health, Phillip Telesford, is out there trying to source investors for his private business just so he doesn't get axed from the cabinet and parliament of Grenada. So forget all you. But we won't forget this that he said to us about our healthcare system.
Being told that, healthcare has not been improved for the past 2.5 years is a fact.
So they've hired Mount Sinai Hospital, a Manhattan, New York hospital. And we the people have to pay Mount Sinai $2.5 million US annually as our government signed an affiliation agreement with Mount Sinai. An affiliation agreement. So we are paying Mount Sinai $2.5 million USD annual to use their name to act as if we're going somewhere, to make as if, all showbiz. 2 million USD affiliation fee annual. And you all wonder why we are broke? Here is Project Polaris and what it should be.
Welcome to Grenada, Spice Island of the Caribbean. Known for its breathtaking beauty, vibrant culture, and now a beacon of medical excellence and innovation. The Government of Grenada proudly presents the new Hopevale Climate Smart Medical City. Located in the parish of St. David, this 84-acre medical city is set to revolutionize healthcare, education, and tourism, not just in Grenada, but across the OECS. At the core of this transformation is the new state-of-the-art Smart Research Hospital, designed with patient-centered care and community engagement in mind. It will provide value-based specialist care, innovation healthcare solutions, industry-leading medical training, and cutting-edge research. From advanced medical oncology and reconstructive plastic surgeries to physical therapy, fertility treatment, stem cell therapy, and more, the medical complex and annex will offer a wide range of specialized services, ensuring comprehensive care for all. Adjacent to the hospital, a large medical complex will house private sector and grant-funded services, including a biotech incubator and accelerator, fostering medical and technological advancements. The complex also conveniently features a 4-star luxury hotel, providing comfortable accommodations for recuperating patients, individuals receiving outpatient care, family members and visitors alike. Staff and student accommodations will be located within the medical city, providing easy commutes and an elevated team member experience. With dedicated retirement homes alongside beautiful private residences for doctors, hospital executives, and returning nationals, the complex ensures a holistic community-centered environment for all. Sustainability is at the forefront, with a solar plant providing renewable energy and supporting Grenada's commitment to eco-friendly initiatives. A vibrant array of restaurants, shops, and entertainment facilities, along with fitness and wellness centers, will create a lively and engaging community atmosphere. Beautifully manicured parks, walking, running, and biking trails will offer serene spaces for relaxation and recreation, enhancing the well-being of residents, patients, and visitors alike. Seamlessly connected by a well-designed road network and ample parking ensures easy access to all facilities, providing an efficient experience for everyone. The Hopevale Medical City will be a cornerstone of Grenada's medical and retirement tourism industries, attracting individuals worldwide with its promise of high quality in an environment unmatched in beauty and tranquility. Located just 20 minutes from the capital, St. George, and the airport, Grenada offers an English-speaking, safe, and scenic Caribbean destination conveniently accessible from North America, Europe, and the Latin American region. The Hopevale Climate Smart Medical City is not just a project, it is a vision for the future, a commitment of excellence to the people of Grenada, a beacon of hope for generations to come as we move Grenada.
Lovely, eh? Lovely. But in the meantime, our loved ones are dying unnecessarily. Babies dying, mothers dying. In some cases, both dying. Pregnant women are traumatized even before entering the hospital to give birth. We have zero primary health care operating here on island. The health centers, 8 to 4 system, a wasted polyclinic in St. John, a newly renovated health center in St. Mark, sitting there. I remember when I spoke of primary health care on Simon Says. 2 days later, primary health care was launched in St. John. That was since in 2023. All that happened, it was launched. And of course, as I complimented it then, and I said, I understand why it's launched in St. John, because they have a lovely, a beautiful polyclinic up there. That was it. All that happened, it was launched. Nothing is going on with our healthcare different for the $2.5 million we're paying Mount Sinai. Now let's take an in-depth look at this Project Polaris. I know most of you, and I'm sure, have come to the conclusion that Project Polaris is another one of Deacon Mitchell and his nation builders fantasy project. Poor NDC. Poor NDC. NDC and I have nothing to do with that. In other words, Project Polaris is a hoax. We will be lucky if we manage to get a new hospital at all, just a hospital. Here's a clip sent to me on Project Polaris, a perfect description of Project Polaris.
The introduction of the Polaris Teaching, Research, and Tourism Hospital has sparked a wave of skepticism that ripples through the community. With vibrant images painted by advocates of its state-of-the-art facilities and world-class medical staff, many are left swimming in a sea of uncertainty. The absence of detailed plans and a solid funding strategy raises questions about whether this ambitious initiative is rooted in reality or merely a mirage, a facade designed to capture fleeting public interest. Critics are quick to voice their concerns, arguing that rather than offering genuine benefits to the community, the Polaris project seems more like a publicity stunt designed to incite enthusiasm followed by inevitable disappointment. The shroud of secrecy enveloping the project's development phases deepens the skepticism, leaving the community disillusioned and questioning how long they will be strung along with hollow promises. The seductive allure of a shiny new healthcare hub contrasts sharply with the stark reality of disenchantment felt among those who had placed their hopes in this venture. Moreover, the ramifications of promoting an irrealizable project stretch beyond shattered dreams. They erode trust within the community. calls to rally behind a cause that increasingly resembles a hoax eclipse genuine intentions and solid commitments. As murmurs intensify, the hashtag #PolarizeAHoax transforms into a battle cry, urging decision makers to assume accountability and foster transparent communication. In navigating the murky waters of this hospital initiative, a blend of vigilance and skepticism emerges as the community's best allies, ready to demand that public interest triumphs over empty proclamations.
And no, it's not AI. It's a real Grenadian speaking there who has been paying attention to what's going on and making contributions and drawing attention. So I like to share these things with you because I like you to know that it's not only Jenny, right? It's not only the opposition party and the one or two others who are speaking out. There are others. There are others. Now, why the need to build a village? Eh? Why the need to build a village? We continue to live in fantasy. We're talking about real life, real people. Grenada is a country with real people. This is not imagination. This is not fantasy. We're real people. So why the need to build a village? We are trying to borrow millions of dollars, billions actually. So we've solicited 250 million US dollars from the Afrexim Bank. It didn't make the list. Nobody knows and nobody has told us. Did we sign an agreement? What is the payment plan? Did we get the money at all? Since I've read out to you the list of countries after they came from the Grenada Forum that got monies from the Afro-Exim Bank. Grenada was not on that list. Project Polaris was not on that list. That 250,000 USD was not on that list. We're struggling to pay our bills. That's hence all the unfinished projects throughout the island. But we're looking to borrow money, put us further in debt for something we really don't need at the moment. And it's not going to happen. We've signed an affiliation agreement with the Mount Sinai Hospital in Manhattan. 0.5 million USD agreement to be paid annually. On May the 13th, 2025. On Sunday, May the 25th, 2025, two members of the three-man delivery unit for a project of that magnitude. We have three individuals on the delivery unit, three, right? Two of which was guest on the Bob Report. Superwoman, Miss Andrea St. Bernard, a nation builder, who was named the project sponsor, and Mr. Damian Dorland, the lead consultant, and first cousin to Mr. Randy Dorland. We're keeping it in the family. He's the chairman, and that's Mr. Randy Dorland. He's also the chairman of the Tourism Authority, and of course, the man in charge of the prefab projects, the one in the dump in Carriacou and the other one in Dunfermline in St. Andrew. Folks, what is clear is that there are more questions than answers surrounding Project Polaris. In that interview, we were told that the 2.5 million USD that we're paying Mount Sinai is going to come, or it's already coming from our consolidated fund, according to project sponsor, Miss Andrea St. Bernard.
Where is the 2.5 million coming from to pay Mount Sinai in the interim, in respect of what they will be doing now or what they have been doing now? Is that also coming from the consolidated fund?
Indeed, this is Government of Grenada paying, making an investment really into improving healthcare and ultimately putting us on a path for the journey to create a legacy of excellent healthcare for Grenadians. So yes, absolutely, the Government of Grenada is committed to making the necessary investments to see that happen. And the initial payment structure arrangements that we have with Mount Sinai is evidence of that commitment.
2.5 million US dollars coming out of our consolidated fund. And we don't have food to feed our children in school. Kids getting dry bread, literally, in some cases. That's what we're feeding our children. Yeah, look at it. That is what we were feeding our children. And we still have issues with the school feeding program. Never mind what you hear, Minister David, David Andrew, the lies he's told to us as a nation. Never mind that. We know, the children know, the schools know, the children, the cooks speak about it. But we have this money. We take in these monies from our consolidated fund. 18,500 EC dollars a day. Just think about that. 18,000 on average. 18,500 EC dollars we pay in Mount Sinai a day. And our schools, some of our schools have not received chalk. They start the new school term, the new school year, and they have not received chalk. And if you get meat, you can't get chalk. And we're asking our parents to share the cost of the so-called military-grade computers that we can't see yet. 3 weeks into the new school year. 3 weeks. No computers, but the military-grade style. And we're asking our parents to share the cost. And according to the minister, between $500 to $700 a child. They broke. Where are our priorities? And they want us to buy into this 15-year agreement and this project Polaris that will probably take 40 years to build. They want us to buy into that, to put them back in office. Unless we forget the 6-year project, the oil and gas, 6 years. It would take us to, yeah. So put them back in office. For pie in the sky, for Fantasy Island projects. All we need is a new hospital. We can't even put proper equipment and material in the old hospital that we have. The new wing is infested with mold. Look on the screen. Yes, that you see in there. That's mold in the ceiling of the new wing where we have the emergency. Yes. We can't take care of that. I saw one of the news media houses did a report about a hospital this past week. And the building, I mean, I don't know if Jab was up there. The walls are black. I know it's not from Jab. Jesus Christ, a tin of paint to paint the walls. What we build in a village. with hotels, and now we having a GoFundMe for Project Polaris. A big project. We have to have a GoFundMe. And our cabinet members have pledged to give up 1 month's salary annually towards Project Polaris. I mean, I know some of them can afford to do that. I'm not sure if all of them. Maybe by now all of them can. Because I'm hearing most of them are millionaires. Right? So they could afford to give up more than 1 month, more than 1 month for a year. Project Polaris GoFundMe. Here is the Governor General in the throne speech for 2025.
Significant strides have been made by the Project Polaris team in concluding negotiations for the financing of the construction of the new smart teaching hospital. We expect these negotiations to conclude before the end of the year. The financing will be via a combination of very concessional debt financing, equity, grants, and donations, and Government of Grenada contribution. The Ministry of Finance has already set aside US $25 million as its initial equity contribution to the project. Madam President, Mr. Speaker, the government will also encourage national and diaspora philanthropy towards Project Polaris by opening a bank account, a special bank account at the Ministry of Finance, into which citizens and well-wishers of Grenada can donate towards the construction of the hospital. Madam President, Mr. Speaker, I have been asked by the Prime Minister and his cabinet to convey to you that the Prime Minister and his cabinet will lead by example and start this process by donating 1 month's salary before the end of 2025, and thereafter 1 month's salary in each calendar year until Project Polaris is commissioned, towards a cost of construction of Project Polaris. This is being done both as a symbolic and substantive show of our personal and national commitment towards this transformative project, and also to encourage our citizens, friends, and well-wishers at home and abroad to own our hospital and healthcare industry. We encourage all our citizens, friends, and well-wishers to contribute whatever you can towards this initiative.
So we have a GoFundMe. We have our cabinet ministers giving up 1 month's salary annually, and we're begging all over the place to finance Project Polaris. But did you know that the Minister of Finance, Dennis Cornwall, in an interview on the To The Point program in June of 2025, said to the host and the rest of the nation and the world that he was part of a team that went to the Middle East and that they have raised the funding. He didn't say some. That they have raised the funding to make sure they can build that hospital. Here is Minister Dennis Cornwall.
The Polaris project that we need to basically get going, that is the smart hospital we're going to build in the Calavini area. And I think we are doing a lot of work behind the scenes to make sure that that happens. In fact, we're hoping to be able to break ground by the first quarter of 2026. A lot of people may say they have not seen nothing happening with that particular hospital, but I can tell you without a doubt, there's a lot of work behind the scenes to make sure it happens. In fact, last month I was part of a team that went to the Middle East. We were there looking for funding, concessional funding, to be able to make that happen. And I can tell you without a doubt that we are well on our way to be able to at least announce in the shortest time that we have raised the funding to make sure that we can build that hospital. The funding is not yet finalized, but we are almost there.
Rubbish. Again, why do we need a village? A village we can't afford. That in itself is spelling out Project Polaris to be another failed project. But some of us knew that from the start. Months ago, on the coming of Project Polaris, I told you right here on Simon Says that Project Polaris is a Ponzi scheme, an investment scam of Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell and his nation builders friends. Just another one of their scams. Mind you, that 2.5 million for Mount Sinai that was signed as a 15-year agreement. So we're paying Mount Sinai, and as a matter of fact, they did say to start. So I think after the first 5 years of that 15-year agreement, we would be paying Mount Sinai more. We would be paying Mount Sinai more. And there is the project sponsor on that 15-year agreement.
15-year arrangement, this big picture, long-term arrangement that you have with that you intend on having with Mount Sinai. There are two parts of this question. What benefits is it? What benefits does Mount Sinai receive from this? Is there going to be any sort of marketing benefit? Is the hospital going to be Government of Grenada Mount Sinai facility? What comes out of this for them, for Mount Sinai, big picture? And the second part of that question is, I know that 15-year arrangement that you have, what measures are in place to ensure continuity should in the event or in the unlikely event that a government changes? What happens to that arrangement? If, administration, because, different administrations have different priorities and things like that.
So the agreement is an agreement entered into by the government of Grenada, and so it is a 15-year agreement commitment by the government of Grenada. And as you know, when administrations change, it doesn't change commitments, legal obligations of the government. Certainly, a new administration might choose to make new commitments or change commitments, but the 15-year arrangement is a legal obligation on behalf of the government of Grenada, and so unless there is a termination or breach of that agreement, it would last for 15 years.
Your Honor, so we stuck with paying Mount Sinai. We ain't stuck with them, I could tell you that. But we stuck with this 15-year agreement with Mount Sinai. Well, when asked about Mount Sinai and having any management role in Project Polaris, there is the answer.
Now, would Mount Sinai be having any management role in this new arrangement with Project Polaris? And if they are intending on having a management role, what would be the terms and conditions of that management role? Because if we're thinking about statutorization, of course, there is a board of directors, you have a CEO, you have a hospital administrator. There is a very clear management structure there. And where would Mount Sinai fit, if at all, would they be fitting in that administrative structure? Ms. St. Bernard?
Yeah, so I'll start by saying that the relationship or the arrangement that we have with Mount Sinai is unique. It's not a typical public-private partnership, so that it's not profit-driven. The management structure is similar to the engagement that we have even at the existing hospital, except more additional engagement. The hospital remains a private or a public hospital. It remains the remit and the responsibility of the government of Grenada. The government then works closely with the Mount Sinai team to set the necessary standards and procedures and governance structures. So Mount Sinai is working in collaboration with the government of Grenada to ensure that the quality and standards at the hospital meet the necessary international standards. But again, it's the government of Grenada's hospital. The statutization is something that the government, again, is committed to as a means of providing an institution with the right structure and accountability to achieve the standards and to achieve a governance structure that permits for really the policies and standards to be set at the head of the hospital and then to be
that arrangement with Mount Sinai is unique indeed. Unique indeed. Folks, what is clear is that Project Polaris is a new economy created by those folks to feed themselves, since all indications show that the CBI well is drying up. We don't need a medical village. We don't need to be the medical capital of the region or the world. What we need is a proper healthcare system, which includes a functioning primary healthcare system to save lives, to save the lives of our people. Do you, Deacon Mitchell, and your cabinet know how much medicines can be bought with $2.5 million in a year? How much material, like gauze and suturing materials, gloves, nebulizers? How many kidney patients can be dialyzed? How many cancer patients can receive chemo and radiation treatments? Instead, it's about getting rich quick and trying to stay in office with that election ploy of Project Polaris and a 15-year agreement. Now, I also came across an interesting video I must share with you. Clip featuring Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell, his profile, speaking about projects here on island Grenada, totaling $1.6 billion. Projects that will topple Florida, and not Florida St. John, Florida, USA. You hear where we're going? We're going after Florida. We're going to topple Florida's economy, right? Interestingly, Project Polaris is not on that list. I beg your indulgence. It's long and comedic, but I need for you to see what we're telling people on the outside, what we're trying to show them. And we're saying that is happening in Grenada. Remember, I showed you one some months ago. But I know if the bridges and so if they done build already because they're not on that list. This is a new list of five projects. Amazing projects. Take a look.
Could a tiny island's $1.6 billion mega projects topple Florida's economic throne? It's happening, and you need to see how. In today's video, we're diving into the top 5 colossal infrastructure projects underway in Grenada. Transformations so massive, they could reshape the entire Caribbean economic landscape. These developments don't just put Grenada on the map. They challenge Florida's long-standing dominance in trade, tourism, and industry. Stick around because the last project on our list will blow your mind. If you're fascinated by global economic shifts and unexpected power players, don't forget to hit subscribe, like the video, and let's get right into it. Grenada is often nicknamed the Spice Isle, famous worldwide for its exports of nutmeg and mace, but there's far more happening beneath this idyllic tropical veneer. Nestled in the southeastern Caribbean, this small island nation has a population of just under 120,000 people. For many, Grenada is simply a dream vacation spot. Pristine beaches, crystal clear waters, and luxury resorts. However, behind this postcard-perfect image lies a bold, ambitious plan to redefine Grenada's economic future. For decades, Grenada's economy has largely depended on agriculture and seasonal tourism, a typical story for many small Caribbean islands. But today, a significant shift is underway. The Grenadian government, supported by strategic international partnerships and billions in foreign investment, is focusing on diversifying the economy. The goal is clear: to move beyond traditional sectors and become a regional powerhouse through industrial growth, digital innovation, and sustainable development. Traditionally, Florida has held a near monopoly as the Caribbean's primary trade, tourism, and logistics hub. Miami's ports, airports, and industries have been the main gateways and economic engines fueling connections between the U.S. mainland and the Caribbean islands. But what happens if a small, resourceful island starts developing faster shipping routes, lowers operational taxes, invests heavily in renewable energy, and builds state-of-the-art digital infrastructure? Suddenly, Florida's grip could begin to loosen. This is no longer speculation. Grenada is already taking concrete steps that may soon rival Florida's influence. Over the next few minutes, we'll explore the top 5 mega projects underway in Grenada. Projects that could redefine trade routes, disrupt tourism patterns, and redraw the industrial map in the Caribbean. Let's jump into the first major project shaping this transformation. Number 1. Port of Grenada expansion. The Port of St. George's is Grenada's primary maritime gateway, and it's currently undergoing a massive expansion that will change everything. With an investment of nearly $500 million, the port is being upgraded into a deep-water hub capable of accommodating the largest container ships plying the Caribbean and transatlantic routes. Once completed, expected around 2027, the port will feature cutting-edge cargo handling technology, vastly expanded storage areas, and advanced logistics management systems. This isn't just a facelift, it's a complete overhaul designed to make Grenada a critical stop for shipping companies. Why does this matter? Because maritime trade is the lifeblood of Caribbean economies, and Florida's ports have historically dominated this space. Miami and Port Everglades serve as major gateways for goods moving between North and South America, the Caribbean, and parts of Africa. But with Grenada's port capable of handling mega container vessels, shipping companies might find it more cost-effective and faster to route cargo through this island instead of Florida. Experts in maritime logistics warn that even a small shift, say 2 to 3%, of cargo diverted from Florida ports to Grenada could translate into multi-million-dollar revenue losses for Florida's shipping industry. The stakes are high. Here's a striking fact. Miami's port suffered a 5% drop in Caribbean cargo volume just last year. Imagine if this trend continues upward. Florida's status as the preeminent regional port could be seriously challenged. This port expansion is not an isolated effort. It's part of a broader vision. Of course, ports alone won't determine the future. Grenada is also betting big on renewable energy, something Florida struggles with due to its vulnerability to hurricanes and climate challenges. Number 2. Grenada Renewable Energy Park. Renewable energy is the future, and Grenada is aggressively investing in that future. The island is constructing a sprawling renewable energy park, designed to harness the power of the sun and wind. This isn't a small solar farm, it's a state-of-the-art facility that will integrate solar panels, wind turbines, smart energy grids, and large-scale battery storage to ensure stable, green energy supply around the clock. The ambitious target? To generate 70% of Grenada's electricity from renewable sources by 2030. This matters for several reasons. First, Florida's energy infrastructure, particularly along its coasts, is highly susceptible to damage from hurricanes and rising sea levels. These disruptions cause frequent blackouts and drive energy prices upward in cities like Miami and Tampa. Meanwhile, Grenada's energy costs could become among the lowest in the region, powered by clean, abundant resources. This competitive advantage will attract a wide range of industries. manufacturers, data centers, and tech startups that require stable, affordable, and green power sources. On top of that, global investors are increasingly steering capital towards countries with sustainable energy policies. Grenada's commitment to renewable power signals a welcoming environment for foreign direct investment, FDI, that might otherwise flow into Florida's traditional markets. Picture this: tech startups, once flocking to Silicon Valley or Miami, choosing instead to set up their headquarters under Grenada's tropical sun because of the island's green energy promise and attractive tax incentives. But it's not just about business. Grenada is also ready to revolutionize tourism, which remains one of the Caribbean's most critical economic pillars. Number 3. Grenada International Airport upgrade. Maurice Bishop International Airport, the island's main air gateway, is being completely modernized. This project includes extending the runway to accommodate large, wide-body jets and constructing a sleek, modern terminal that will double passenger capacity, expecting to handle 2 million travelers annually by 2030. Why is this a big deal? Florida's airports have long been the primary transit points for tourists traveling to Caribbean islands. Most travelers heading to the region fly first to hubs like Miami or Fort Lauderdale, then connect to their final destinations. But with direct international flights increasing to Grenada, especially from the US and Europe, tourists may soon choose the island as their first stop. This will bypass Florida's airports and reduce tourism traffic through the state. In fact, the Caribbean Tourism Organization reported a 12% jump in Grenada's direct international arrivals just in 2024. That's a huge sign that travelers want easier, more direct access to paradise without layovers or long wait times. For Florida's hospitality and retail industries, this could mean less business as travelers discover a more convenient and luxurious route straight to the island. Ask yourself, would you rather spend hours in an airport in Miami or land directly on a stunning island where your vacation starts the moment you touch down? While tourists are changing their travel habits, a new wave of digital entrepreneurs and remote workers is also eyeing Grenada's fresh opportunities. Number 4. Grenada Digital Free Zone. Inspired by global tech hubs like Dubai and Singapore, Grenada is launching a digital free zone designed to attract startups, tech companies, and digital nomads from around the world.
This zone will offer a package of benefits, including significant tax breaks, cutting-edge digital infrastructure like high-speed fiber optic internet, and progressive laws around data privacy and business operations. For many entrepreneurs, the rising costs of living, taxes, and traffic congestion in cities like Miami have become barriers. Grenada offers an appealing alternative, an affordable, vibrant lifestyle coupled with a business-friendly environment. The island's digital free zone promises the kind of freedom and support that tech startups crave. It's a space where a remote worker could run a six-figure business from a beachfront villa without the heavy tax burdens or bureaucratic hassles they face in the mainland US. Florida has long promoted itself as the Wall Street of the South and a growing tech hub. But Grenada's new initiative threatens to siphon off some of this growth by providing a more flexible, affordable, and attractive option. And if that's not enough, Grenada's final mega project aims directly at one of Florida's economic strongholds: manufacturing and industrial trade. Number 5, the Grenada Special Economic Zone, GSEZ. This is the crown jewel of Grenada's transformation plans. The GSEZ is a sprawling industrial complex designed to house manufacturing parks, agro-processing facilities, logistics centers, and duty-free zones, all tailored for foreign investors. What makes it so powerful is the package of incentives. Companies operating inside the zone will benefit from zero corporate taxes for 15 years, streamlined customs and regulatory procedures, and special land use rights. Florida currently dominates Caribbean manufacturing and trade,
mainly because of its well-established logistics networks and access to key markets. However, Grenada's special economic zone could change the game by offering much lower operational costs and seamless access not only to Caribbean markets, but also to Latin America and Africa. Already, pharmaceutical companies from India and agricultural exporters from Brazil are showing serious interest in establishing operations there. This tiny island is evolving into a global manufacturing hub. It might sound like a far-fetched dream, but the groundwork is already being laid, and investors are taking notice. What makes Grenada's plan truly groundbreaking is the strategic way it leverages both its unique geography and progressive policy framework to create an economic advantage that Florida simply cannot match. However, Florida faces significant constraints due to its sheer size, increasingly complex regulatory environment, and aging infrastructure that struggles to keep up with evolving global trade demands. In contrast, Grenada offers a nimble, focused, and highly adaptable approach. The island's leadership is capitalizing on emerging global economic trends with remarkable agility, positioning itself as a new hub for commerce, technology, and sustainable development. A recent 2025 report from the Caribbean Development Bank highlights just how impressive Grenada's progress has been. Since 2023, the island's GDP growth rate has more than doubled, signaling robust economic momentum. Even more striking is the fact that Grenada now attracts more foreign direct investment per capita than any other country in the Eastern Caribbean region. These figures are not just statistical footnotes. They represent a tangible and transformative economic shift occurring in real time. Investors and businesses are taking notice, drawn by Grenada's stable environment, strategic incentives, and commitment to innovation. Meanwhile, Florida's dominance in Caribbean trade is visibly waning. Over the past 2 years, the state has experienced a steady 3.2% decline in trade volumes with the Caribbean. This decline is not hypothetical or projected for the future. It is happening now. Each new development in Grenada, whether it be a state-of-the-art port facility, upgraded airport infrastructure, cutting-edge renewable energy park, or specialized digital and industrial zones, chips away at Florida's long-standing supremacy. These investments enhance Grenada's reputation as a dynamic, forward-thinking economic player ready to meet the demands of the 21st century. Envision a future where ships, planes, data, and goods flow through Grenada first, serving as a critical gateway to North America, South America, and Africa. This small island, spanning just over 130 square miles, is quietly transforming into a heavyweight on the global economic stage, poised to redefine trade and investment patterns across multiple continents. So, what can we take away from all this? Grenada's massive $1.6 billion investment spree across its ports, airports, energy sector, tech infrastructure, and industrial base is rewriting the Caribbean economic playbook. No longer satisfied with playing second fiddle, this island is boldly stepping into the spotlight. If Florida doesn't adapt and innovate rapidly, it risks losing its hard-earned position to a nation that's a fraction of its size, but huge in ambition and strategy. Grenada's approach is a lesson in how smart, targeted infrastructure investments combined with strategic economic policies can redefine regional power dynamics. This story is far from over, and watching how this rivalry unfolds will be fascinating for anyone interested in economics, geopolitics, and the future of the Caribbean. If you found this deep dive into Grenada's mega projects eye-opening, please hit the like button and share this video with anyone who loves understanding global economic trends. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss our future videos where we uncover the world's most surprising disruptors. Now,
What can I say? Going after Florida, manufacturing industry, we're still waiting on the Cupra factory that Andy got $2 million to build. We're still waiting on that. We ain't have money to feed the children. Again, I have to stress, we ain't have money to feed our kids. But you see, they cut ribbon for the airport project. Up to now, the jet bridges are closed. You're not, well, I traveled in July with international and international aircraft, the American Airlines. We still can't use the jet bridges. What's going on? But we toppling Florida. We going after Florida. We that good. And all these things are already on the way. So don't say it's pie in the sky. When I lived abroad, my cousins the kids used to be watching Mr. Rogers, a whole imaginary program Mr. Rogers ran. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, a beautiful day in the neighbor. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? Won't you be my neighbor? Please, won't you be my neighbor? And then he started talking about all sorts of imaginary stuff. We have a prime minister that could very well do Mr. Rogers' program, take over from Mr. Rogers. Let's move on. Let's move on. Mr. George Mason's Mr. George Mason achievement list. He also had payment of pension to public officers, and you know the usual. But something I keep noticing that they stop speak about the teacher's duck salary. For some reason, that does not make the achievements list anymore. But we knew it was illegal to do that, to pay them. But they've been using it. They probably use it for the first year. But all of a sudden, it has disappeared of the list, the achievements list. I'll only say here that the former administration paid pensions, although they're saying they never paid pensions and they never wanted to pay pensions. They paid pensions, and they paid more pension than what this administration is paying. As a matter of fact, what the administration paid, the NDC paid, was retroactive. Here is a clip of the then permanent secretary in the Ministry of Finance, who still is and remains the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Finance.
I just wanted to make one additional point with respect to the pensioner. So the retroactive pension that is paid now, all those persons who have received those payments are now added to the pension payroll. So you'll continue receiving your monthly pensions going forward. So essentially, we're talking about 2,200 persons now on the payroll, and an additional 525 being added to that as part of the pension payroll going forward. And whenever someone retires, based on the...
What we do know is that Deacon Mitchell promised during his campaign to regularize all public workers in order for them to be paid pension under the 1958 pension plan. He preached of one public service.
And there will be one public service. If you are working for and on behalf of the state of Grenada, and you are fulfilling a permanent job, there is no need to have you branded as an Imani worker, and there is no need for you to be placed on contract. You will be regularized and made part of the public service.
So you've heard him, one public service. But one public service could only mean one pension plan, which is the 1958 pension plan, according to the Constitution of Grenada, right? One public service. Everybody regularized, and we're moving on with one public service. He spoke of regularizing, therefore, all workers, and he had a timeline in 12 months.
Congress commits to regularizing the status of contract workers who are working for the government and Imani workers who are working for the government within 12 months of assuming office.
Okay. That's before he got into office. Because he did say, once he got into office, within 12 months of getting into office, he would regularize all public workers. When he got into office and he realized what a punk cocoa selling, he said, we can't do it. Back up, back up, back up, back up. We can't do it.
The regularization is focused on the several hundreds, if not thousands, of other persons who do not have those things. And the point that I think P.S. Marshall was making is that in order to treat with that, we simply cannot take all of them and make them established public servants for the simple reason that it will bankrupt the government. It will not be sustainable. So the discussion, the partnership, the compromise has to essentially be how we improve the terms and conditions of these persons' employment as close as possible to that of established workers in a manner that is sustainable. And that involves a number of things. How we agree on a pension formula for them, for example, how we agree on the vacation, etc., etc., etc. So that is what the process.
So, according to Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell, it's not sustainable. Something the former Prime Minister, the former opposition leader, Dr. Keith Mitchell, has said to them, to us, time and time again, that it couldn't happen, that it is not sustainable. All at a sudden, Grenade Antoine, all at a sudden, he get into office and he realized. So all the time he was blabbering out there about one public service and regularizing everybody in 12 months is because he didn't know what he was talking about. He did no investigation into the matter. He did nothing that could tell him what he's saying they made sense. He just thought it sounded good, like all the other things. The coolers across the street, the bucket truck picking mangoes. It sounded good, right? So after he said that, and Grenadians started saying, but you told us you would regularize everybody in 12 months, in a year. What happened? People waiting. People want the 1958 pension plan. They want to get on there. He came and he told us. He never said that.
We never said we would regularize the public service in 12 months. We said we would regularize it. And we have begun to do so.
He didn't just say that he could regularize it in 12 months. He said he can do it by the stroke of a pen.
That position. Right. And I'm saying the job of the citizens, of the government, is to fight for its citizens, to protect its citizens, to encourage its citizens to be independent, not dependent, not vulnerable. So that is the challenge we face. And I'm saying it is solvable by the stroke of a pen. Yep. And let me make this further point. It is actually illegal. The Employment Act clearly says that you cannot put someone on a fixed term contract, meaning these short term contracts, when the position they are filling is an indefinite one. So the government itself.
Yep. Yep. And I'm saying it is solvable by the stroke of a pen. He said it's criminal. It's criminal, he said. When he realized that it couldn't be done, and he continued to get blows, he said, he didn't say this one as well, you know. Hear him.
When people want to make mischief, they're going around and saying, you say a stroke a pen, you can regularize everybody, you stroke a pen, regularize everybody. I never said that. I said there should be one public service. And I will say it again, there should be one public service.
He said, he never said that, you know. You just heard him say, by the stroke of a pen. You just heard him say it. And then he said he never said that. He said one public service. Yes, he did say one public service. One public service, so one pension plan. But now they have a SUSU plan that they bring for the people because they can't afford to do the full regularization and put people on the pension plan. But he wasn't the only one who had to own up that it can happen. Our Attorney General, Cindy daughter, decided then, after they got into office, that they should be upfront with the people and tell the people the truth.
But let's be straight. We got to be straight with the nation. Contract work and pension reform must go together. Because we commit to pay the retroactive pension, and we are doing so. We understand the import of the ruling of the court. But so as not to do severe damage, perhaps even irreparable damage to our economy in the long run, we must work out a pension plan going forward that's sustainable. Because as it stands now, when people retire, they are entitled to NIS, that's public servants I mean, they are entitled to NIS plus government pension, and government pension is a non-contributory pension, which means the government alone pays everything into the pension fund, plus under the NIS law, the government pays 6% into the NIS, into the National Insurance Fund. So going forward, that will be a really hefty sum that the IMF and everybody else have already warned is not sustainable going forward as it is. Plus, if we regularize contract workers across the board without at the same time treating with pension reform, what do? We bloat the public service. We expand the public service, and in so doing, the amount of people who would be eligible for pension.
Since we're almost out of time, I'm not going to continue this. Mr. Mason list. I did enough to damage it. He spoke of the upgrade of the police, the RGPF salaries. I guess he's talking about the pay and grade. There's so much complaint about this pay and grade that I can't get into it right now. Pensioners not receiving anything. It's just crazy. But for the ones who have gotten the increase and getting it, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. He talked about extensive road repairs. Where are these extensive road repairs, Mr. Mason? This is the worst our roads, our infrastructure have been in 40 years. The worst it has been, right? Look at the Cliff project. I mean, the Prime Minister said they have separated themselves from CCCCI because they've said they were planning to give us the road in September. I thought it was September 2025. So he said they took it. And I said, by now we're traveling there. It's September now. It's almost over. And we're not close. A project that was supposed to take 8 months is almost 2 years and counting. And you could imagine the overruns. Every project this administration did has had overruns. They ain't telling us how much at all. They ain't telling us how much these overruns are, because in a lot of cases it's much more than what the project was estimated at. And we know why. It's wastage, it's corruption, and movements of monies. We were told by the Minister of Finance in our budget presentation for 2024 that $50 was going to be added on to every driver with a driver's license. You have to pay $50 more for the maintenance of our roads. The first time I hear a government add to our license for such. Okay, innovative. But where is the road work? So where are our $50 going? Where is the road maintenance? And the Prime Minister is the Minister of Infrastructure. He doesn't have the time to stay on the ground to talk infrastructure. He let it go for Andy for years. Every time he traveled, Andy was the minister, the acting Prime Minister and Minister for Infrastructure. And that is why he was able to sign off on the Cliff project for the bribe. Yes, while the Prime Minister was in the clouds. While the Prime Minister was in the clouds. He spoke of the worst political divide. Yeah, who caused it? Who have the country divided, Mr. Mason? The NDC. The NDC. It was just a very misleading post by you, sir. As a union leader, I'm disappointed. But then you state your case, you opened your hands, you told us exactly who you were, not once, more than once. And I understand why you would post something like that. Folks, that's a wrap on today's episode of Simon Says. It's always a pleasure conversing with you, trying to keep them honest. Thank you for viewing yet another episode of Simon Says, where facts come first. I'm your host, Jenny Simon. See you next week. Have a great week. Bye now.
Thank you for tuning in to Simon Says. To ensure that you never miss an episode, click subscribe and make sure to turn on the notifications by clicking on the notification bell icon. See you at the next episode.